You better go sit down.
I will now call to order the Clackamas County Extension 4-H Service District on May 24, 2021. Before we get into our business, I will ask that the committee members go around the room and introduce themselves, starting with here.
Hello, I'm Rob Guttridge.
Thank you. Next, staff.
Angela Sandino.
I'm Leah Sundquist, the county liaison.
Thank you.
Cheryl Kythen, representing 4-H.
Rob Kappa, Master Gardener.
Ed Winkler.
Sonia Fisher, County Commission.
And go ahead, Gary.
Gary Schmidt, District Administrator.
Yes. Anybody on Zoom?
Yes, we have Don, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Don Wiley, Master Food Preserver.
Okay. Mark?
Commissioner Mark Scholl.
Paul?
Paul Savas, Clackamas County Commissioner.
Martha?
Commissioner Martha Schrader.
And I'm Chair Tootie Smith. We will now take nominations for Chair of the District. Rob Kappa, I believe you're up.
Commissioner Smith, I would like to nominate Ed Winkler for Chair of the District.
I'll second that nomination.
Motion has been made and seconded as Ed Winkler for Chair. Any comments on that? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? I see none. I'm going to ask that when you speak into the microphone, scoot it to you close, because since we have masks on, it really muffles the sound of our voice. I will now turn the meeting over to our new chair, Ed Winkler.
Well, good afternoon, Commissioner Smith. I'd like to open the floor for nominations for Secretary of the Extension Committee.
I would like to nominate Cheryl Kythen for Secretary of the District.
Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion, Chair.
Motion is carried. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Any opposed? Motion carries. It has been moved and approved that Cheryl Kythen be elected Secretary. Congratulations. I'd like to turn the meeting over to Ms. Leah Sundquist. For those who don't know her or are just the public visiting, she is in charge of the Extension Committee or the Extension Program for the Oregon State University 4-H. Ms. Sundquist.
Good afternoon, Commissioners and Budget Committee. I'd like to go ahead and provide you with the presentation. I won't read the letter, but there is a letter that has been submitted as well as our MFR in regards to the budget. So next slide. This is OSU's mission, vision, and core values and services that we work really hard to provide for you all within the county. Next slide. Because this last year and previous year, the county had been working on your top 5 priorities, I went ahead and nested our programs and the things that we do under each of your 5 priorities so that you could see where we try to integrate what we do in our education services for you and for the county, for the citizens of the community, residents. Next slide. Major accomplishments this last year has been COVID, as everybody knows. And so our staff has pivoted like any other teaching staff within the state. And so I wanted to provide you some of the accomplishments within each of our program areas because I felt they were significant enough to let you know how involved we were in the community, even though it was COVID. We didn't have a lot of in-person classes. We actually canceled tree school at the community college. But the faculty were innovative and were able to provide classes online or via video. Even the teachers out in the school districts had the ability to do some classes with their students out at Hopkins Demonstration Forest. Next slide. Extension-wide, we collaborated with your Emergency Operations Center as well as with the Department of Ag and distributed over 100,000 masks. I still have about 10,000 masks over in our annex that we have available to the agriculture community. They call, they make an appointment, let us know what they need, and they can come by the office and pick those up. And then we also worked during the ice storm. Well, actually, we worked during the wildfires as well. We helped evacuate animals, and we had faculty and volunteers that were down at the Clackamas Fairgrounds helping to care for the animals. And then we also, during the ice storm, provided a warming center at our extension center when the high school closed down. Next slide. Forestry's been busy this last year, especially with the wildfires. There is a shortage of seeding, and so across the state, the forestry community is working to try to figure out how to get enough seedling to be able to replace. But you can see they worked with over 180 landowners with the needing 3.5 million trees within our community based on the needs they've received. Hopkins Demonstration Forest at the bottom did a full 360-degree tour of the center so that the youth, because it's a youth educator out there, so that the youth can go actually online and can tour Hopkins Demonstration Forest through the either Facebook or through his YouTube channel that they have. Next slide. Okay, going into the budget, this will show you, and it will look a little, I guess I would say odd, because we have a lot of money that's saved for the building. So you can see in FY19 how we spent about 1.9 million, but we had 9 million. That's the extra money for the building that's sitting in savings right now. For this next year, we would like to ask for the total of 2.6 million, and that's in the MFR that was submitted to the Finance Committee based on a 4% increase for this next year in the budget, which would bring our total request to the 10.967 million. So right now we have about 8.5 million saved for the new building. Next slide. This shows you how it's apportioned out. We were able to reduce administrative costs. Oh, I'm sorry. This is how we have it apportioned out by program. So that you can see, because 4-H is part of our service district, it does receive a higher percentage so that we can focus on the community and for our youth across the county. We do have the largest 4-H program in the state. Next slide. This is where we've been able to reduce our administrative costs. Last year, we were at 18%, and we were able to bring that down to 13% this year. We really only have 2 administrative personnel that are focused on the total operations, which is myself and our fiscal coordinator. The other administrative personnel are actually in the program and supporting each of the programs for what their needs are. Next slide. There you go. That's the MFR that we submitted. Next slide. And we are not funded at all by the general fund. We've been able to support ourselves within the service district budget that we've been provided. Next slide. These are emerging issues. I'd say more opportunity, not necessarily issues. With the growing population in the county, it does mean that we have a lot more requests for service in Master Gardener area, on our phone calls that come in, questions in regards to things happening in the community. We do have more forestry personnel. Our family community health was really busy this last year because everybody began wanting to do a lot more canning, a lot more food preservation with COVID. And then our 4-H program did their fair completely online this last year. Each of the individuals who participated did a video, and that video was submitted as part of their show and confirmation process. And then, of course, we're working on the building. It will continue. Gary Schmidt we have met on this, and so we do have a few things to work on, a way ahead in terms of a couple of courses of action as to what we're going to be looking at here in the next couple of months. Next slide. New building and just the population. As the population grows and we have requests come in, then the needs for support are going to be a lot higher. But right now, again, we're able to manage it in our current request for the 2.6 that we are requesting for the service district this year. And that will go into the next portion with the rest of the budget committee. Any questions?
Are you done?
I believe we have some comments. Chair, would you like to call on the people?
So thank you, Ms. Sundquist. I'm going to open the budget hearing for public testimony. And before I do that, I'd like to get a sense for who in the room would like to provide testimony. Anyone by show of hands? On Zoom, do we have anyone on Zoom that would like to provide testimony?
Thank you, Chair. Now's the time for public comment on the Extension 4-H service for anyone on Zoom. If you have a comment for the Extension 4-H service district budget, please utilize the raise hand feature on Zoom now. Seeing none, Chair.
Thank you. There being no public testimony, I will close the public.
Commissioner Fisher, I believe.
Oh, yeah, I just had a question.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Is now the appropriate time? I'm curious with, because there's been a lot of effort to save the money for the building, and the prior board had the wonderful opportunity of looking at ideas and potential design, and there was a lot of work around that. So could you give a little bit more information about
Sure.
what you're thinking now?
Sure. Gary, County Administrator Gary Schmidt, myself, and Elizabeth Comfort met and had a discussion. Right now, the building plans are completed from the architecture for a 22,000 square foot building, 2-story building. The challenge we had is we went for bid this last year in February, right before COVID hit. And the cost of the building bid was a lot higher than what we had saved. And we also did not have enough money in the security debt process. And so what I've tried to do, working with the budget committee, is to start putting money into that security debt as well as continue saving the money that we have been. The way ahead is to look at whether the building will be value engineered, reduced in size to only OSU extension building, or whether the county may have needs and want to contribute funds to continue moving the building forward in the current scope, or maybe in a larger size based on the analysis that'll be done here in the next couple of months.
Follow up?
I also, just so that you know, I have been trying to work with OSU in terms of presenting to the foundations, OSU Foundation, 4-H Foundation, and the College of Agriculture Foundation. And we're working to try to see if we can get the construction project onto the OSU construction project in order for the foundations to help seek donors out in the community at a larger dollar amount for us.
Recognize Commissioner Schrader.
So when you say getting on the OSU list, and that would give them the potential to ask for dollars, I'm assuming, at the legislature from their construction fund?
Two options. One would be to, when it goes onto the construction list for OSU, for their large construction project for the university, it then allows extension to prioritize our building for the foundations. And so the extension director would have the ability to say, yes, we want this as a priority. Then the 3 foundations would go out and seek donors for us for the building. The other option is for us to work with our legislative representative here in this next budget cycle. If it looks feasible, we have a meeting on the 2nd of June with the architect, and it would be possible to go through the legislator to seek money as well. So we have a couple of options we're looking at. Right now, the cost of the building is going to probably be up to about $18 million due to the increase in forestry costs.
I was going to say lumber's gone high. So you think for the building as originally engineered would be about 18 million?
That's a rough estimate. I'll know once the OSU architect gives me a little bit more idea from her perspective, since she'll be working with the OSU move to get it onto the construction list.
Okay.
It was the first bid, and the bid that the county accepted was $14 million.
Right.
Without the increase, and we didn't have enough money at the time.
Okay. Thank you for that. We've been waiting for this building for a while, and we're giving you the space for it. We'd really like to see it.
Yes.
I was here when and so was Commissioner Smith, or Chair Smith was here as well when we wanted to move ahead with this, so hopefully it'll move ahead.
Did Commissioner Fisher have another question?
Actually, Commissioner Schrader asked it. Thank you. This is my follow-up. Thank you, Commissioner Schrader.
Commissioner Smith?
Seems to me past discussions had centered around the Extension 4-H Board considering bonding, and they were going to use Clackamas County's bonding authority. Is that no longer on the table?
That'll be in the discussion again. It was on the table at the time, and when the analysis was done with the bids coming in, we did not have enough debt security saved in our budget for the leasing and the payment of that debt.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to recognize Rob Capo.
Yes, I'd just like to kind of touch a little bit on that subject. We are so anxious to get that building built. Can everybody hear me okay? All right. It's been a tough process for staff and then also for the volunteers and the different programs we have. The cost was an eye-opener and a shocker to all of us. And we are definitely exploring every possible option we can to raise the rest of the funds. And hopefully within the next year or so or two, whatever, we'll be able to break ground. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Are there any other questions for the committee on the budget or the presentation or the message? No.
Yeah, I'm just curious if going through the pandemic and how things shifted, has that changed any of your visioning for what the building would be used for, what is actually needed?
The scope and the size of the building, that's one of the things that we'll be discussing here in the next couple of months. Either we're going to reduce it down to about 18,000 or less based on the need of faculty and meeting space that we've got there. But it's really also going to be a community building in regards to, it'll be one of the first county resilient buildings in terms of earthquake. We have a commercial kitchen that's forecasted, so Red Cross would be able to use it. We can collaborate with the women's group that's in the Shaver building. They can come over, learn to cook meals. So we want this to be community as well. It'll be able to be used for an alternate operations location from my perspective, as well as the warming center and everything else that we've done, just by virtue of what we're planning in the building in terms of my background with emergency operations.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I got one.
Recognize Mark Scholl.
Yes, thank you. Leah, could you explain the special payments line on your, let's see, what slide is it?
Sure.
The special payments line on the summary of revenue and expense.
Yeah, let me get to my actual, do you know what page that's on? No, I know that. I'm looking for the explanation. To remember all the special payments. Pam, do you remember? I'm looking on my actual expanded budget list where I have all of my notes. Commissioner Scholl, I need to go back and look at that.
Okay.
Because we did have it this last year on the budget in terms of special payments, and that's kind of transitioned in our budget process this last year. So I need to go back and look to see what was specific in that window of the, okay. The OSU payment. That's what we approximate the cost that would go to OSU based on salaries and services. What we do is we look at the billing, then we validate with OSU what the cost would be, and then we bill the county for the out of the service district money, and then a check is sent to OSU. Ours is a little bit different in terms of a service district because we are employees of OSU, not employees of the county. And so I coordinate with Elizabeth and the finance department and the billing, and then we validate with OSU what those costs are. So there is a double check that occurs in that process.
So that money comes from federal, state, local, and local taxes, right? It's not part of the general fund?
No, it is not part, it is part of our service district budget.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
And just to clarify, anything that's not used, i.e. with COVID this last year, there are some areas that have not been spent in our overall budget. That rolls over into the next year, and then what we do is we put that into the savings for the building. So anything above and beyond what we bill OSU stays in the service district budget and is available for use for the building.
Okay, thank you.
So we're trying to save as best we can.
I'd like to thank all those who had questions and input during this hearing. We'd like to call for a motion to approve the budget.
I move that the committee approve the 2021-2022 budget for the OSU Clackamas County Extension and 4-H Service District as presented, and impose the maximum permanent tax rate within district boundaries for the amount of 0.05 cents or 5 cents per $1,000 of assessed value.
Rob?
Any second?
I second the motion.
Any other discussion about the motion? Hearing none. It has been moved and seconded that the OSU Extension, Clackamas, and 4-H Service District budget for fiscal year 2021 and 2022 be approved. All in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed, say no.
And actually, I will, sorry to interrupt, I'll actually do a poll so we can get everybody's ayes.
Okay.
So I'll start with Cheryl Keithen.
Aye.
Okay. Rob Kappa.
Aye.
Rob Guttridge.
Aye.
Don Wiley.
Aye.
And Chair Ed Winkler.
Aye.
We'll do Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
and Chair Smith.
Aye.
The ayes have it, and the motion is approved. Any other business or discussion? Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned.